teacher at Dubai English Speaking College, and in my spare time, I lead a company, an organisation, a Teach Me organisation, which is called Spark. And Spark, if you've not heard of this, it stands for Sharing Pedagogy and Refining Knowledge. And as I said, we're a Teach Me organisation. And so we support schools in helping them to set up their own Teach Me, to plan their events. And we do that by supporting them through the early planning stages, and also through our website, which does quite a lot of work for us now. If you don't know what a Teach Me is, it's a really simple concept. It's getting as many teachers as you can into a room, sharing their own personal insights, what works for them in the classroom, while simultaneously fostering collaboration between educators, but also between schools. We've held, in the last couple of years, 13 large events across the Middle East, so Dubai, Sharjah, Bahrain, Qatar, to name a couple. As you can see, we've reached quite a wide audience. The benefits of attending a Teach Me or holding one at your own school. For me, in terms, it has quite a tangible impact on well-being. Before an event, during an event, after an event, the enthusiasm and the positivity that generates from having 100 passionate teachers in a room sharing ideas on a Saturday morning where they don't have to be there. For me, that's where the magic happens. Also, importantly, getting new ideas for their teaching and for their classroom. And you can pretty much guarantee that people will leave our events with 2-3 ideas that they can try the very next day. Also allows to build up this personal learning network, so collaboration between educators who might not necessarily go to the same school. And I've met some great people along the way over the last couple of years that's really impacted on my own teaching. We have some events already penciled in for this academic year. We've got our first early years event at Heartland International School in Dubai on the 24th of October. So please do share that with your colleagues who might be in early years. We have a STEM or STEAM event, it's a science, technology, engineering, art and maths event, which is our first event actually in Abu Dhabi, which is in November. And we've also got an event penciled in Sharjah in January. I'm also talking to a couple of Dubai schools already about having their own events. And equally, if you're in the room and you're interested in your own school, using Spark to facilitate a Teach Me, do let me know before you go. So, what we're going to do, in the workshop this morning is just showcase what a Teach Me might look like. It's not a real life one, because in real life they go on for 2 to 3 hours, but just it might give you a flavour really for what they're like. There are 2 traditions with Teach Me. Firstly is that our events, our presenters, normally of which we have somewhere between 15 and 20, are under quite a strict time limit. So they have between 2 and 7 minutes in order to make their presentations. Now, we all know teachers, when given a stage, they like to go on a little bit. So when I time my presenters today, should they go over the time limit, with about 10 seconds to go, they will hear this tune. Find it, okay. Go a bit louder. Okay, and that gives them a little. So should you hear that tune, that means they need to get a move on. Stop. The second tradition is using social media. You can see we've got a hashtag here, Spark Event, and that allows people to follow the event even if they're not attending it. So a hashtag is a way of people searching for common tweets or tweets with a common theme. So if you are a tweeter, and I'm going to talk a little bit in my presentation about Twitter later on and using that as a professional learning tool, then please do make your comments about the presentations and include hashtag. Okay, without further ado then, last but not least, I have my presenters. And I have 3 strapping lads to my left, who are incredibly talented teachers who are going to present for us this morning. And first up, we have Neil, who is from Dubai British School.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. Right, my name's Neil Oates. I work at the British School. I'm a secondary teacher by trade, but this year, for some reason, they've got me doing head of primary computing this year, so it's a bit of a change for me, working from year 1 to 6 and year 13 in the same working week. Very, very strange. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is what some people may have heard about before, is lazy teaching. Anyone here a lazy teacher? Yeah? Brilliant. See, we see it as a shameful thing, don't we? We talk about lazy and we think it's a really negative image. I'm actually going to tell you today why being a lazy teacher can actually help your students. Okay? And you'll see what I mean. Now, the inspiration for all of this, okay, for me comes from one particular book, and it's the Lazy Teacher's Handbook. You ever want to learn more about being a lazy teacher? This guy, Jim Smith, amazing, absolutely changed the way I approach teaching. So give this book a read, it'll change the way you think. It's another book that you could read, that I'm reading at the moment. It's really, really good, Talk Less Teaching. Really key things, 2 really key philosophies that I like to look at. Now this is my adaptation of this. This isn't their work, this is me and how I interpret it. So my philosophy as a lazy teacher is an effective teacher is not overworked. They're not stressed. If you're stressed and you're overworked, you're not effective. Not think on your feet, okay? Your students feel it, okay? Second thing, there's no need to do everything for your students. They learn better by doing it themselves anyway. If you're standing up in front of them and you're talking at them because that's what you think you need to do, stop. They are much more capable than you think. You don't have to do it for them, okay? Third thing about lazy teaching is you should be secure in the fact that independent inquiry, we talk about these independent inquirers, okay? What does that mean? Well, that means they have to get on with it themselves. They have to be dependent upon themselves. And if you don't give them that opportunity, you can't have independent inquirers in your classroom. Right? And the fourth thing, all right, talk less, students learn more. Okay? Loads and loads of studies, can't name them off the top of my head, loads and loads of studies show that the less a teacher talks in a classroom, actually the more learning that's taking place. Okay? So, a few tips I'm going to give you today. Tip 1, before planning any lesson activity, this is what you should do. What will the students have to do in this lesson? Ask yourself, what am I going to have to do in response to this? So what do I have to do? Because you as a teacher, before you plan your lesson, think about, am I going to have to mark all these books at the end of this lesson? Now, if the answer is yes, well, why do I have to mark all those books? You've got to ask yourself that question, okay? How can I make the students do as much work as possible? That's what you should ask yourself. What is it that you're going to do in that lesson that makes them work, not you? Okay? Fourth thing, how do I keep myself free? One of the things in my classroom, if you walk in, and a lot of the amazing student teachers that we have at DBS also do this as well, if you walk in, the teacher is circulating, they're sitting with groups, they're talking. If you've got time in the classroom, that makes you more effective, because you can be focusing on those groups and those individual learners who have those individual needs. Okay? If you're stood at the front and you haven't got time to do that, because you've got other things going on, you're less effective. Okay? And the final bit is, who am I going to assess and give meaningful feedback? A lot of people think, how am I going to give feedback? My question to you is, before you plan a lesson, think about who. Is it the whole class? Is it 1 or 2 students? Is it a group of students? Okay? Think about who you want to give meaningful feedback. You don't have to assess every single student, every single lesson, and give every single student feedback. It's unmanageable. So break it down. Okay? So, next tip. Make them work for answers. My A-level groups really have to work for answers. I go weeks without answering a question. Can you imagine that? In a classroom, you're not answering questions as a teacher. This thing, Brain Book Buddy Boss, you've probably seen it all over the place, okay? Make them think about it. Tell them, you have to think about, before you answer a question, whether or not you know the answer. Have you checked a book or the internet, etc.? Have you asked someone next to you what you think the answer could be? And then, and only then, and if you can prove to me that you've really looked into this, then I'll answer your question. Make them work for that knowledge. If they're working for the knowledge and they know, okay, they can't take that shortcut to you every single time, that's going to make them more independent. And that's what you need, the culture in your classroom. That's how we make them independent. That's how we make them make more progress. So whenever I start a year, that's what I put across to my students. Thing here, which is quite an awkward one for teachers, stop marking everything. If you're taking a whole pile of books home every week and you're marking them, you're slogging away, etc., etc. Think about that. Is that really the best way of giving feedback to your students? Are there not other things you could be doing to feedback? So for me, I know student feedback is the most important thing. It is. We know that. But it doesn't have to be in the form of a book. Okay? Do you have to mark everything? Ask yourself that. Does everything that a student writes have to be marked? Do we have to look at the grammar every single lesson? Do you have to do that? What are you looking at? What are you targeting? Okay? Could the student mark the work first before giving it you? My students, if they do an assessed piece of work, they mark it first. And only when they've marked it first do I then mark it. Okay? Refuse work. I'm not marking this until you've actually done it properly. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Could you give them some formative feedback and tips? One of the things I do in my A-level groups, I don't give them a grade, don't give them a mark until we do a proper summative bit assessment. I give them tips. You need to improve your evaluation here. Why don't you say this? You don't have to give them a mark every single time. Give them something to focus on. Okay? Do we have to write down all our feedback? Just to give you an example of another way of giving students feedback, on here, this is my Google Drive. What I do in my books is I quite often record the feedback for the students on a video, and then they play it, and then they act upon my feedback in the classroom. Do I have to write everything down in the book? Can I not do it in person to them right there? Look, I looked at your book yesterday. This is what I think you should be doing. Get them to write it down while you're there. You don't have to take it home and mark it. Okay? Get them to do the work. Okay? So there's alternatives that you can do. Other things, and this is a big one, I get really frustrated with. Are you marking a book because it's for what the student needs, or are you marking it because you've got a book scrutiny coming, and you've got your line manager coming into your classroom to look at your books? And if it's the latter, we're doing it wrong. You either need to talk to your line manager and say, you know what, yeah, I know I've got a book scrutiny coming up, but I don't think this is the right time for my students, or me. Or you should be finding a way of making sure that that bookmarking, that assessment that's going on in that book is continuous and it's easy. So you're not stressing about having to take them all home for this particular day. So it's a constant level of feedback. Okay? I'm happy for any teacher to come into my room and open a student's book, because there's always some feedback there. But it's not something that I'm taking home every single week and giving summative feedback every single time. Okay? It's flexible, it's continuous. Okay? I'm going to hear the sound in a second. Tip 4, this is my favourite one. Technology is your friend. This is what the lazy teacher does. They use technology. Google Drive to share work, improve resources across the department. In our business and economics group, we have a shared folder here. Every single teacher in our department has access to all of my lessons. They're all on Google Drive. If you've never used Google Drive, I tell you now, it will change the way you teach and collaborate with each other. I can click on any one of my colleagues' lessons. So my lovely wife works in the same department as me. Not awkward at all, I promise. And here I am. Here's a lesson that she planned. And if I want to, I can load up that lesson. And I can edit anything on there, because it's on Google Drive, it's live online. How many people here still use a student shared folder or a teacher folder at school where you're editing PowerPoints that you can only edit one at a time? This one's collaborative, it's online, it's in the cloud. Okay? Anyone who wants to can edit it. I can share this with my students. It's just so easy. I'm here on my Google Drive, I right click on something, and I can share it. I can email it to them, I can put it in an Edmodo group, anything. It's easy. And once I've given her access to that folder, anything else I put in there automatically shares it. Reduce your workload. Why are you emailing them out all the work? Why are you having to stick everything on Edmodo? Give them one email with one folder for the whole year. Reduce your time, reduce your stress and workload. Okay? Other things, yeah? Google Forms, assessment. Why do you have to do a written piece of assessment every time? Can't you do multiple choice assessment? There's loads of tools out there, hundreds. You can do it in Edmodo, something called Flubaroo, Google Forms you might have seen, Zondel's another one. All of these ways in which I can assess students instantly, spend less time assessing, okay, and more time on teaching, okay? Lots and lots of other things in there. So remember, technology is your friend, okay? Loads of other stuff. These are some of the tools that you might use if you're a lazy teacher. If you guys want to know anything more about the way that we do things with DBS, or the way that I'm as lazy as possible and get the students to do as much work as possible, feel free to drop me an email and I'll share this with you later. Thank you very much.
Okay, next up we've got Ed from Charging.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Ed Mosley. I teach PE and geography at secondary school in Charger English School. My Twitter's there. If you, that'll be on at the end as well. If you want to ask me about anything in this presentation, that's a good place to get in touch with me. So, I lead the professional development at Charger English School. I've done that for about a year and a half now. And just to give you a bit of background, click through this, that's long. 3 years ago at SES, it was very traditional. I think like a lot of schools in the UAE from people I've spoken to, the only CPD available is, here's the BSME or the Infinite Learnings courses calendar for the year, paid courses. If you want to go on one, submit this application, off you go, come back, don't really share it with anybody in the school. So that's where we were. 2 years ago, we got them some time in briefing, in staff meeting every morning, to share a bit of good practice, which I'll talk about next. I was starting to get a culture going of teachers sharing and learning from each other. Last year, we had meetings every 6 weeks, Sunday after school, that was completely dedicated to professional development. And this year, and today, there's multiple facilities, opportunities for staff to engage with their professional development, either personally, going on courses is still there because it's still valuable, and through collaboration. So I'm just going to go through a few of the things that we do at SES internally, the free stuff. So if there's any senior leaders in here, you might write this down. The free stuff that staff do enjoy. The first thing is books. Neil mentioned books. All these statistics are from the end of year questionnaire last year that I sent out to staff. I asked them if they would want some books. The majority said yes. Some said no, which is fine. Not everyone wants to read books. So I went onto Twitter and found some books. And set up in the staff room now is a little corner called the book club. And here, staff there's a lazy teacher handbook, top right. All these books I found out about on Twitter. I've not read them all, I'm not going to claim that to all, I've read about 2 best. But teachers can take the book whenever they like, sign it out and borrow it and bring it back. At the moment, there's only a couple of staff that have taken the books out. We've only launched this year. But most staff tend to grab them with a cup of tea in the morning and read them before the head comes in to start briefing. So at least they're reading it and they're talking, oh, have you seen this in this book? And they're talking. So completely, more or less free, other than purchasing the books, but you know, it's a long-term investment. Blogs. I'm subscribed, it's very easy to find this. Again, I found these through Twitter and asking colleagues. Online blogs by great teachers. I follow teachers back in the UK, and leaders as well, and some authors. And basically, staff were keen to receive articles about this, but they didn't want to go and find it themselves, because we haven't got time, because we're all too busy and stressed. So I do the work for them. I subscribe myself, and next please, Neil. And basically it works like this. I categorise the blogs into 4 categories, and then staff will email me and say, I would like to receive blogs and articles on leadership. That's something I aspire to do, or I'm currently doing. When I receive a blog on leadership from my subscriptions, I simply just mail it out. So I have a mail contact list. Very, very quick and easy. Very simple to do. And I try and send them at least 1 article a week. About 80% of our staff are signed up to this, which is great. I don't know if they read them. I find that at the end of the year when I survey. But at least it's there, it's under their nose, and it's tempting them to read something that they might not get now. Thank you. Get 1 a week. New one, we launched it term 3 last year, Pop-Up PD. Basically, as you can see, our staff at the moment, after the past couple of years of encouraging this collaboration, are now much more willing to work with each other and share good practice. So next please. Pop-up PD is basically staff, if they have an idea, something they want to share, they say, okay, Thursday afternoon, 1 till 1:30, my classroom. I'm going to be talking about Kahoot and how I use it. If you want to come along, turn up. This came about because not everybody wanted to go to that Sunday after school meeting that's compulsory and listen to something they know about or are not interested in. Here, you get people that are interested in it, that want to learn, and they can share that good practice. So this is what we've had already this year. We're not far into school. We've already had 4 pop-up PD sessions delivered by staff for their colleagues, and more staff are using these great tools. The teacher's toolbox. This is just on our shared system. Basically, click the next click. A load of folders organised of resources, similar to what you could do on Google Drive as well. Staff put this together. They said, I've got something really good for queeneries, I've got something good for starters, I've got something good for marking. I organised it all, and then as staff come across new resources or something that's worked well, they pop it in here and use it. And when we come to key points in the year, like exams, we remind people about the revision folder that has lots of good revision tools in there. So at the moment, about 50% of our staff have said that they go in here and use it at least once a week, which is great. Peer observations, very, very popular. Very popular. We call it learning, not judging. Lots of our staff want to observe their colleagues. As soon as you come out of your teacher training, you never see another teacher teach until you're a senior manager, probably. Okay, which is not a good thing. So what we developed, or what my old colleague Lee Garrett developed, next one as well, please. I would arrange to see Neil in his lesson. Neil, I'm free next week when you're teaching year 11, can I come in? Yeah, of course you can, Ed. SLT, can you cover me next week, please? Thank you very much. Yeah, SLT got them on board. They agreed to cover as long as they can. It's all a give and take. About 20 minutes, so you can usually see
what
2 or 3.
SLT stand for?
Oh, sorry, senior leadership team. Yeah, sorry, some abbreviations. 20 minutes max, so you can see 2 or 3 teachers in one period, and you've got to identify 3 strengths of the lesson and 1 thing you're going to try and apply in your lessons. That's a carbon copy. You give one to the teacher you've observed, and you pin the other one up in the staff room on the learning, not judging board to celebrate the process. All right, so pat on the back basically in public. Really enjoyed that. Thank you, Neil. This is the crown jewel for SES, Chartered English School, CPD Tuesdays. Staff briefings, 7 minutes every Tuesday. Tomorrow morning, looking forward to it. Hump day, the middle of the week, where everyone's really tired. An opportunity to share good practice. Next one, please. And celebrate is very important. So staff, sign up and volunteer to do 7 minutes, a little bit like Spark, in briefing. So the head has to hurry up, he's got 2 minutes to say what he wants to say, and then it's CPD time. And they share ideas. Here we've got the science department. I can't remember what they were doing, but it was enjoyable, it was quite active last year. Inter-department competition on a revision strategy called Try Dominoes. Caroline last week was doing brain gym. They booked out the ICT room 1 week, so we had a briefing in ICT doing clickers. And I mean, you can see the smiles and the motivation. That's a little bit different to a regular briefing. And next one, please. This is the last one. Last year, that's 43% of staff presented. This year, 63% want to present. So I'm getting them on side more and more. Next, please. At the moment, we're trying to improve the quality of what's there. But sometimes people come up and just say, this is how I ask questions, and it might not be brilliant, but it's good to collaborate. So we're trying to improve the quality. But the important bit for me in this early stage that we're still in, it's, you know, a good 5-year plan to improve collaboration. A majority of staff enjoy it. It's motivational, and they want it there. They don't want it to leave. It is important, if you think about applying something like this, which is very simple, you can't force everybody to do it. Some staff want to sit there and listen. Initially we had a random name generator and said, okay, you're up next week. And some staff found that very anxious and didn't want to do. So we changed it. Next please, I think that might be it. Yeah, that's all. So if you're interested in what I've just said and you want to find out more, email, LinkedIn and Twitter. I've also got 50 handouts here. 25 for you guys, 25 for the later session. So first come, first serve. Okay, which outlines all of those strategies and a little bit more information. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, next up it's me. My theme is quite similar to Ed's in that it's about professional learning. And last week we launched, or the teaching and learning team launched our professional development programme at Desk. And the theme behind it is getting better, quite simply. And to use a very well-used Dylan William quote, not because we're not good enough, but because everybody needs to try and get better. And the idea behind this is that as individuals, we're actively trying to drive forward our own professional learning and supporting our colleagues with theirs. This is the teachers, if you're with it as an educator, these are your personal learning environment and your tools that you should be using. And some of my colleagues have already touched on a couple of these. So your cloud learning environment, your Google Docs, okay, the way of collaborating within that cloud. Your personal web tools would be things like using WordPress, a blogging site, reading other people's blogs, also perhaps using your own as an area for reflection, and your personal learning network. Which brings me to the subject really of my presentation, and that's using Twitter as a professional learning tool. Going back to that word better, if you were to say, Rachel, what's made you better over the last 16 years? Well, I wasn't going to tell you that, reveal my age. But what's made you better? And then without a shadow of doubt, the biggest single influence, I would say, is this. It's had quite a profound effect. It's significantly changed my outlook and increased my knowledge base of pedagogy and leadership beyond anything I've ever really encountered. The reason why, I think, is, for me, it really embodies what professional learning should be about. The research says these one-off workshops don't actually work. People go to a workshop, they see something that they like, they go, that's great, I'm going to try that with you and I tomorrow, and then they forget about it. Okay? And actually, Twitter, learning through Twitter is continuous. And if you're really going to make a difference to your students, if you're going to make a difference to their learning, then your learning needs to be continuous and ongoing. It's autonomous, it's driven by you. When you're learning through web tools such as this, you decide when, you decide where. It's personalised, okay, so you're going to tailor it to your specific areas of interest. It's available 24/7, it's free, you don't even have to get off your sofa in order to learn. And I think that's what I got very excited about when I first discovered it. That as a lazy teacher, to quote Neil, that I haven't even actually got to move, and I have access to this 24 hours a day, should I need it. So how do you get your colleagues involved, or how do you, if you're sitting in the room and thinking, actually this is new to me, as a professional learning tool, how do you get involved? I've delivered a couple of training sessions this week with colleagues at my school, so that's one way, educating staff. Also, I produced a little booklet, really for beginners, but also there's some advanced and kind of intermediate tips in here too. There's 20 or so spare that we had left over from our meeting, so do take one, and if you want an electronic version, equally, I can hand that to you. Also, we launched our own hashtag last week. Now, hashtag, if you're not familiar with one of those, is a way of searching for tweets that have a common theme. So our hashtag is DeskLearn. Now, for two reasons. One way is that was so that I could filter, and colleagues can filter articles which might be useful to us and to our community. So teachers just have to type in desk learn into the search, and then all of the articles, okay, that we think are relevant to our learning community then come up. Also, it's a way of our teachers, when they read something, they actually, I really want to share this blog post. If they tweet it out and include desk learn, then again that goes into. And I had a little look last night. There's at least 6 or 7 colleagues already have contributed. Okay, so we're sharing is caring, and sharing our best practice. So in summary, personalised, continuous, autonomous, available 24/7, free to use, and with this quote behind me, just sums it up for me, that if you're using it, you're at an advantage over those people who are not using it. Thank you. Next up, we've got David, who's from Just.
Well, good morning to you all. I'm actually delighted to join the Spark team. I always come away from these sessions thinking I've picked up 2 or 3 great things. And the sessions, as they say, are very short. However, I'm going to talk to you about something completely different. I run the house system at DBS, as well as teach. So I'm going to give you an insight as to why I think it's, if not the most important thing at our school. Don't bring you up, please, thank you. Being an international school, of course, at our school there's 60 different nationalities. As they walk in, there's no doubt they struggle to get into the atmosphere. The house system brings them a lot closer together. And it is their system. They run the system. This lazy teacher approach that we've been talking about today, well, I don't actually do much at all. The pupils do it all, and I'll talk to you more about that in a second. But in terms of our school, it's quite small. So this community feel, this cohesion is absolutely crucial. And it's got to be about staff and students working very closely together. So the main things for me is that we have a huge pupil input. So recently we had our presidential elections where we had a student president, a student vice president, they all have their school council team. And separately this year we have a pupil head of house. And the head of house will decide upon what they want to do with our house system. And they'll set up their house captains. But additionally to that, it's got to be about the collaboration between primary school, foundation and secondary, and holding events together and being part of this one team. One of the things we've employed this year is said, right, we need a marketing team, pupil marketing team. And they are fantastic. They go away and present to some of the biggest companies. These companies turn around and say, this is fantastic. Yes, we will sponsor you. No, we won't. But the skills they get from it is absolutely crucial. We're going to change the names to a very more Arabic theme this year. It's crucial that we have such a big influence with our Arabic department in school. The events they need to be inclusive for every single student. It can't just be sports orientated. It's got to be a wide variety of events. Again, the students come up with it. A big thing that I think is essential is our house charities. We have a variety of charities at a variety of scales. So we'll have a local one within Dubai, a national one within the UAE, followed by an international one. We tragically hear about these disasters. Pupils and parents are amazingly generous. It gives them that sense of awareness and culture, especially as some of them may well come from some of those countries. And our house actual point system is something called ePraise. And if you have a system that you don't feel is quite up to scratch, then have a look at ePraise itself. It's great, it's very interactive, and it's very pupil friendly. In addition, there's so many tools I will use in the classroom, whether it's seating plans, random name generators. There's so many different really good things. But tomorrow, for example, our head of house people is going to call a whole staff meeting and turn around to the staff and say, this is how I want you to give out house points. This is how we see it as a student body. And that's really important, I think. Just a couple of our events are so important in terms of bringing this team together and these pupils, this well-being for these pupils. We have a fantastic sports day over in an amazing complex, or our swim gala, which is really good fun. But in addition to that, these key events, and they need to be able to access absolutely every type of learning. I'll give you an example here. We have our principal in the middle there on the bike, not the one that's collapsed on the floor. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be standing here if that was the case. An idea of an event last year was that we had a group of pupils going on an expedition to South Africa. So we decided, let's get together, let's cycle to South Africa on static bikes. So 6,500 kilometres, fitness first donated these bikes, and in a week we actually did it. It was quite entertaining receiving pictures from staff members that had fallen out with their wives and were on the bikes at 2 o'clock in the morning in our school. I don't think Neil did very far on it, by the way, you can probably tell, but it brought the whole school together. You had little pupils in foundation and primary just doing a kilometre, and their staff having races, people coming in from outside of school. It was brilliant. That was actually there's a senior leadership team race that clearly they're not putting any effort into at all. Thank you. It can't just be about the pupils though. So this is something we introduced to the staff. And I think it's always the same in so many schools that you have a small minority of staff doing everything. So this was a chance to reward them. So we've got some absolutely brilliant prizes that we give out, not only to pupils, but to staff. And we said, okay, those that do the most, therefore they're the ones that should be rewarded within school. And this is led by our house captains. They will go around with a clipboard and see which staff members have turned up to events, which ones have helped them organise events. Thank you. Now, just to give you a little flavour then, at the front there, these are staff members. Just a random picture we took just shows to me that community feel within a single event. Clearly the yellow team are pretty disappointed with the outcome here, but hopefully that shows up our house spirit. Our senior management are obviously 100% behind us. If not, it wouldn't work. And they're just a couple of things that I heard them say, and I thought I'd like to share them with you because they're putting the pupils first. They're talking the top one about the well-being there. And the second one, our new head of secondary, mentions this social capital. And it's got to be about this trust between staff and pupils and the enjoyment. And this is what will make our house system, I think, one of the best around. Okay. To finish, it's up to you. How long have you got? 10 seconds. Don't worry about this video then. So, thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to point out the obvious to you. Nobody's got enough time in this room. If you're an educator in this room, you don't have enough time. I'm not a role model for best practice in prioritising your time, I have to say, but I'm going to share a few tips with you. I come across this fairly recently, and actually I thought about this last night when I was at school working after school. And I hadn't really prioritised my time effectively at all. Because what I was doing was planning, or starting to plan a scheme of work for Jekyll and Hyde, which we're about to launch with our Year 8 in 3 weeks' time. While sat to my left was a pile of said Year 8 books that needed marking for today. And if I had been using Covey's time management grid, my books, of course, would have been in here. Okay, I knew that I wasn't going to be at school today, so I knew that those books had to be marked before I went home. But I was doing the thing that I like to do, which was planning lessons, okay, which should have been in here. Covey uses a really lovely metaphor, actually, for life when he's kind of explaining his grid to people. And he holds up a jar and puts in it, fills it with big rocks. And he says to the crowd of people, okay, so is this jar full? And they say yes. And then he puts a box of small pebbles in, shakes it around a little bit. Is it full now? And they say yes. And then he puts a load of sand inside the jars. Now it's definitely full. Now the big rocks, and he says this is your metaphor for life, the big rocks are your family, your partner, your health, the things that if you lost everything else, that keep your life full and fulfilled. You said the pebbles are the things that are important. So your job, your house, your car, and the sand is just everything else. However, if what we've done is put the sand in first, if we were sweating the small stuff all the time, then we've got no room for the rocks. We've got no room for the important things. And actually, it's critical to your happiness that you're giving time to the things that are important. And I read that recently, and it actually kind of made me think a little bit about reorganising my own priorities. So there's Kobe's grid. I picked this up from a spark event in Qatar. And it's an alternative, I guess, to Kobe's grid. And it's a way of prioritising those 37 things that are on your to-do list. Which ones actually need to be done today? Which ones can wait? Which ones actually shouldn't even really be on your list because you're a busy person? So that one was really useful. And again, a way of prioritising the tasks that are important, urgent, rather than those ones that you just like doing. Something else that I've come across recently, if you're familiar with Italian, you'll know that Pomodoro stands for tomato. And a guy called Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s developed what he called the Pomodoro technique. And the Pomodoro technique simply is that you work on your work for 25-minute chunks. You work out the tasks that you've got to do, the achievable tasks within a day, and you set your timer to 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, you then have a break of 5 minutes. You then set your timer again to 25 minutes, and after 4 Pomodoros, you allow yourself then half an hour off. If you're going to get a little bit more skilled in this, you'll work out approximately how many Pomodoros you need between the main tasks that you have to do within your job. Okay? A way of concentrating, a way of stopping procrastination, a way of avoiding going on social media at the time you're supposed to work, and just trying to really maintain those concentration levels. Something I came across on Twitter the other day, there's some copies of it over there, are the Good New Habits book. And it's where a school has developed, for each week, teachers focusing on an area of well-being. And if all else fails, and you are really stressed, cake does help. And stress, of course, is dessert, spelled backwards. Okay, that was just a quick one from me. That concludes our mini version of a Teach Meet. Okay, as I said earlier, our Teach Meet events are usually 2.5 to 3 hours long. We have something between 15 and 20 presenters. I shared with you earlier some of the forthcoming events that we've got for this academic year. You'll also find those on our website, which is www.sparkevent.me. And you've got my card. If you are interested, do drop me a line in terms of email, in terms of hosting an event. If you're interested in presenting for us, do let me know. One thing before you go, could you please fill out the evaluation? Thank you.